Rust Belt Hammer and Ghetto Blaster Magazine present Sex, Drugs, and UFOs, Episode 39, Psychedelic Shaman, Shape-Shifting Strippers, and Alien Abductees. We have it all. We have a special guest we're about to call the legendary Emotron. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. You can find that under Rust Belt Hammer or Sex, Drugs, and UFOs. SoundCloud, same thing. Go ahead and smash that like button. Tell your friends to subscribe. Pass the word along. We do a lot of wacky episodes, and this is going to be right up there with the best of them. We had Emotron 6 months ago. And I'm your host, Matt, here as usual with my co-host.
Third Beast Joey Baloney. You know what? I've been saying it all along, but now all of a sudden, it's trendy to hate on Game of Thrones. Fuck all y'all. I don't trust any of you, and I'm definitely not going to reach out to any of you in a time of crisis, so...
I gotta say that people tried to tell me that I would like Game of Thrones just because I like naked women.
It's fine, it's a TV show.
Well, I guess everybody
people just take...
heterosexual man would like it then.
People, like, the idea that people go to social media and post things like, I've wasted 10 years of my life over this fucking show and now it's just being ruined. I'm like, oh my god.
It's just dragons and titties, right?
Well, I'm just like, how void of shame are you that you didn't think for 2 seconds, like, maybe I shouldn't emotionally react like this to a TV show. Anyways, I'm talking a little bit softer because we're all like hunkered in a war bunker right now. It's crazy out there, and I'm closer to the microphone than everybody else. But anyways, let's get Emotron on the fucking phone. I can't wait to ask him about his progress.
Let's go ahead. This is his number. We don't want to give that publicly for all the fans out there because there are a lot of crazed Emotron fans. Emotron at his live shows lights his dick on fire, and I know that a lot of fans just light their dick on fire afterwards. I've seen that shit on like Dateline.
All right, calling him right now. It's ringing.
All right.
Can you all hear that tone?
I hear it.
Hopefully karaoke night's not canceled tonight.
Come on, Tron. Well, while we're waiting, I should say that every 2 weeks we do have our podcast up on ghettoblastermagazine.com.
That's true.
No, it's kind of a weird time to say it, but...
Did you have Urban Dictionary Ghetto Blaster today, and it was very educational. Kind of like a...
The wireless customer you are calling is not available. Please try again
feels
later.
Like some hard
El
rejection
cliente
right
de
there.
servicio móvil al que llama no se encuentra disponible. Favor de intentar más tarde.
Engulfed.
Message 1,
You know what?
US01
Let me make sure that I gave you
LV.
the right phone number. Type this in. Try this one.
That's the same one.
It is the same one. I wasn't off by a digit. Can't say it out loud.
It's the same
Too
one.
many Emotron fans.
I mean, do you think like law enforcement's after him for lighting his dick on fire? I mean, these days, 21st century, all bets are off.
He typed his fucking number wrong to me. Hold on, hang up. He typed his number wrong to me.
It's hung up. No, yeah. I know. Listeners, this is a DIY operation. This is what happens whenever
I think everything's the same, but the last number is a 0.
Grassroots. We do everything ourselves. I'm editing this on. Wouldn't you like to know? What is it? I can't remember.
For sure.
No, it's gonna go on.
This is all going in.
I bet he planned it.
Okay.
I've been listening to really ignorant rap music. Lee's afraid that people are
it a
going
new
to view my
genre?
Spotify and be like, wow, this dude's a bigot.
Hello.
Bigot rap.
What is up, Emotron?
Emotron.
Slamming some beers, punching some walls, listening to Five Finger Death Punch, my favorite band.
Oh my god. Australia's greatest export.
They, for everybody that doesn't know, I held a tournament on Facebook, and I had people vote in 16 bands, and then they were all placed against each other. So who was in there? Fish and oh gosh,
Imagine Dragons was one of...
Imagine Dragons, Maroon 5. People really hate that Greta Von Fleet van. They were in there for some reason. Sublime. But yeah, Five Finger Death Punch won. They came out as the biggest losers.
I don't think I've ever actually
winner.
heard one of their songs. I've only seen like pictures of the
Uncle
singer.
Cracker
dude.
was in it. Yeah. Well, I listened to them for the first time for the tournament. Tron, were you familiar with Five Finger Death Punch?
Not really. I knew kind of what direction they were in, but I honestly listened to them right before the podcast just to know.
Is it like
you know how bad they are.
Is there some sort of like fan crossover with people that like Ween?
Donald Trump, actually. Donald Trump is the big crossover, I think, in woman beating.
So Emotron, how's the vow of celibacy, if I may ask? It's been a few months.
Jump right into it? Should we? I'm like, I've been anticipating it. I don't know. Should we jump right into it?
I'm genuinely fascinated because I feel like the neurosis of companionship has kind of just like wasted a whole decade of my life.
Well, honestly, I didn't make it. Y'all.
Oh, no.
No!
Yeah.
I gotta know, was it sex or was it jacking off? Or was it both? Give me the
Well,
juicy
I guess 2 months in, maybe 2.5 months in, around like February, I felt that, I don't know, I needed some sort of release. I felt a lot of tension around me.
Of course.
Describe, paint the picture. I mean, like, were you on the road? Were you just like, were you having groupies lined up outside?
No. I was just kind of off the road and around family and friends that were going through some things, and I feel possibly like, you know, some of that energy maybe in some ways compelled me to want to release the seed. So that was one of the things, I guess about 2.5 months in. And then, I don't know if we went over it in the last podcast. I'm sure we did, but it had been almost getting close to like 8 months to a year since I had like, intercourse or intimacy with another person, when I was on the podcast last time. And I broke that, I guess, maybe about a month ago.
Yeah.
So you did almost go a whole year, if not a full birth.
Not
three
having
trimesters.
sex.
Yes.
Correct. Not definitely a whole year not having sex or sexual intercourse or anything like that with another person. But
did the extraterrestrial beings or interdimensional beings that encountered on that crazy not mushroom trip, but what was that other substance?
The sassafras.
Like some MDMA components.
Did the Sassafras Police Department come and apprehend you or contact you, send you cease and desist, anything like that?
Well, it's really interesting. No, I didn't feel really the presence, or I didn't think anything was enhanced or lacking in my life from honestly going the 2 months without, ejaculation at all. But the release of that was definitely like a really powerful thing.
So it was positive. You didn't feel like regret or anything afterwards.
Yeah. I didn't feel depleted, and I didn't feel like, I felt a little bit shamed because I knew that I, blasting celibacy vows on the internet and podcasts.
No, but that's good. You went longer than a lot of people could go, and shit, when you blasted, it must have been like a fire hose.
Yeah.
Did it feel like not enough water, instant mashed potatoes coming through your urethra, meatus kind of thing?
Well, I also, I filmed it, and if anybody would like to see it, I'm not going to describe it or spoil it, but if anyone would like to see it,
There's an Emotron sex tape.
Is it on LiveLeak?
Yeah.
Where did we find this?
I can't tell that. Venmo, PayPal me $50.
I feel like you should put it on
Let's talk.
RedTube so you can be amateur porn
get
star
some of that
and
ad
outsider
commission.
musician.
Well, I've kind of already got a video like that on the internet on one of the other podcasts I did after y'all's. I talk about it, so y'all do y'all's research and look for that.
Is it the alternate karaoke night video?
No, somewhat. It's a different song, but maybe the same costuming and maybe a little bit more, definitely X-rated.
I want to see. I want to see a
do
porn
y'all's research.
with what's his name, Gary, with the Gary, the big Gary.
Oh,
Anderson
the Gary
costume.
Anderson. Oh yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. The tumors.
Lee, didn't you have a question about
Really
hot
into
dog
tumor
bun?
porn.
Oh, hi, my favorite house guest.
Hey, how you doing? I'm still the favorite, huh?
Oh yeah. Well, I had a couple of questions, but I didn't want to cut off this celibacy talk if that's.
I mean, we can. I feel like every podcast we've been talking about a certain thing that comes out of people's butts. Poop, obviously, I'm referring to.
Well, I could talk a lot about that, but I can add a little bit to the celibacy
Oh yeah,
thing
let's keep doing that.
in the whole sassafras.
I can hold on.
I was going to mention it's interesting comparing my experience last time with the sassafras and then coming on y'all's podcast. I guess it was probably about a month ago. I had around the same thing. I think it was more on the level of more on the Molly side of things. Yeah, and similar thing happened then, kind of similarly to what I described in the podcast last time, but not as strong as that cabin in Amarillo, Texas, or whatever the fuck it was. But yeah, very orgasmic, very like sweating out toxins, very feeling like an abundance of love coming from who knows where.
Maybe yourself.
I don't know.
The inner you.
Yeah, that, and I felt like from like ancestry and I mean, like, mechanical elves, as y'all were talking about earlier.
I'm not like a particularly religious person by any means, but I think about the higher power stuff all the time. And one of the things that always comes into my head, it's not even something that I actively, like, consciously go towards, but like, ancestry is a big thing of like, and not just past ancestry, but like, kind of like seeing you and past ancestors in your living relatives constantly, and sometimes it happens.
What about seeing future relatives?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's possible.
I don't think I'm gonna have any future relatives because everybody who's alive in my family has like stopped having kids, at least like on my dad's side. So I think this is the end of the road for us.
Yeah, I mean like if the sun's gonna come and melt everything and erase Jesus Christ and Paul McCartney eventually, but maybe even before that, Godzilla or a big flood.
Can you believe that a whole future generation of people won't know who Prince is? Because they'll have to start from nothing.
Well, there won't be an Earth. There probably won't even be an Earth. There
will be a Prince somewhere.
Think
out
about
in the cosmos.
what kind of character a Prince like kind of reflection in an alternate universe or planet would be like.
He's already so
exactly
godlike.
the same.
I don't know.
Yeah, it probably exists somewhere.
It's the beautiful ones that always make you cry.
Well, I was curious about nocturnal emissions, honestly, because you weren't masturbating for... How long did you go without masturbating? I know the sex thing was almost a year. Masturbating was 2.5 months?
Yeah, I would say somewhere between 2 and 2.5.
So was there some nocturnal emissions? Was there some intense sex dreams?
No, not that I can remember.
No.
I definitely felt more of that dream state and the DMT being released in my brain. But
feel that.
That could have been from stopping smoking some ganja for intermittently in those times as well.
Do you find a differentiation between like being under the influence of some altering substance? Do you find yourself more creative, more productive, more wanting to engage in sexual acts or interpersonal communication?
Does marijuana make you horny?
Yeah, sure, yeah, somewhat,
Makes me the opposite of horny, which I guess would be terrified. I don't know. Is that the opposite of horny?
I've been horny and terrified like half the time I'm horny.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's like a nice thing to do to get a little bit stoned and whack off, and
that is really nice. I feel like when I'm by myself and stoned all the time, but if I'm like wanting to do it in like real life with another real person and not like an alien being, it's more of like stone cold sober yields stone cold boners.
You've never really shamefully jacked off until you've been high on cocaine for like hours and it's the only thing that'll make you happy.
Well, do you think you do that because you're trying to counteract the horrible come down?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't sleep and your doctor won't refill your Ambien prescription. I mean, come on, we've all been there, right?
Do you do that thing where you try to stay up on Ambien and you trip balls? Is that a real thing?
I've stayed up on Ambien, and it's funny because I had like a phone job at the time where you had to read a script, and I had this girl in my bed, and I was like reading the script to her, trying to like sell her some shit.
Did it work?
She thought I was fucking nuts. And then made fun of me the next day and told me all about it, and I couldn't recall a thing.
Did it hurt your feelings?
Oh, Lord.
No, not at all. She was more upset that, like, she came over for a date, and, like, I just took her shoe shopping for myself. I just took her to buy Vans for myself at the mall. I was like, I'm going to go buy 2 pairs of Vans tonight. Would you like to come along?
I mean, you have a relatively solid track record, so maybe you're not doing it all wrong.
There you go. Well,
Matthew, how are you? Who are you now compared to that person you're talking about?
The guy who would take someone. I don't take Ambien or cocaine anymore, so I would say that is definitely. I feel like a completely different person. This was so long ago. I don't think that. I would like to think that I wouldn't have anybody over and then recite a script to them in my bed when I could be like, pleasing them sexually.
Yeah, amen.
Maybe.
Amen to that.
And you're wearing Nikes now,
instead of trying to sell them on online colleges.
You're at least a notch above on the economic scale. Because
I still have
Nikes.
Vans.
Oh yeah, but you wear those Nikes more often, so to signal is that you're a man of affluence.
I am very affluent man. I've moved up to Nikes from Vans. I have myself a pair of boots now. I actually want to get Beetle boots like Vincent Gallo and Buffalo 66. That's kind of been my obsession. Wow. Those are some good-looking shoes. Some good-looking shoes. So how did the tour go, Tron? You just ended it with Andy The Doorbum.
Yeah, it was really nice. There was some emotions and family drama to be had while I was on the road, and I was a part of it a little bit. A little bit of the backstory is in one of the live videos up on YouTube from Roanoke. But there was essentially Andy The Doorbum built this tour around dates with Chesky, and asked me if I wanted to play the date, some of the days around the shows that were scheduled with Chesky. And I was like stoked to, see Chesky and Zeta, I think was the name of the other band from Venezuela.
Oh, I have no idea.
And they were sick, and I got to see some really nice things and see Andy, and got to perform. Eventually, I guess one of my off nights, I started performing as kind of like a backup robed figure to Andy. And at that point, it had been like, a week and a half into tour. So I did the last like week as kind of Andy's backup robed figure, as my friend Shane described it.
Yeah, because he's like a performance artist.
Yeah.
Did you do any? Did you do any Emotron shows like with with Chesky? I wonder how the Chesky fans.
Yeah. I opened up on the second Chesky show at the Milestone, and it's the first time that I had ever opened up a show in the Milestone in a very long time in Charlotte, and it was unbelievable, extremely psychedelic. One of the top 3 shows on the whole tour. The energy the whole night was unbelievable, and I really think that the Chesky crew really liked me. His little brother David a couple nights later was like, "When are you performing again?" And I was like, "I'm not."
I love David.
But that was one of the nights. The last night with Chesky, with Andy, was the first night that I wore the robe and was kind of Andy's backup person. So I got to perform with perform on the tour in a different way.
Is this kind of like an interpretive thing, or is it like a kind of a pre rehearsed show?
It's I've performed with Andy kind of in a similar manner.
So what does Andy do, like, for the new listeners who's not familiar?
Andy pretty much, he used to play acoustic guitar, and had many, like, backing session people that would come in and play live with him, like more acoustic banjo, saw, violin, percussion, and type instruments. But he recently, in the past 5 or 6 years, have started doing a more performance art based stuff with backing tracks that he orchestrates and records in his studio in LA. But essentially the visual is he has some beautiful masks made with like animal antlers and latex of his face with beards, his beard into them. So he's essentially wearing a mask of his face with animal bones and horns coming out of it with all sorts of hair. But he also towers above the audience, standing on a platform, and manipulates lights on his hands and that he can control as well on the ground. So most of his set is in darkness until like some epic parts, lights will be turned on, and he's towering there with this, animal mask of his face and like, huge black cloak. And my performance was behind him. I would stand behind him as extra arms with sticks of incense, like with smoke, going up and down his body as he performs. So
that's intense. I wish I could have seen that.
Yeah, I recently put up the last couple of days since I've been home from tour. I put up a couple of him and Chesky did some acoustic based record store performances. I just put those up on YouTube, and I got some of his more performance art based sets recorded as well. I'll probably put those up soon, but yeah, I'm sure, type in Andy The Doorbum, you'll find some shit.
I want to see that shit in my living room, though. Well, technically in Lee's living room, because my living room would not fit anybody.
Holler at him. Your living room going to be a certain height for that boy, though.
Yeah, well, we'll extend the roof. We'll raise the roof, metaphorically and physically. But
being on tour with him was really inspirational. Andy and Chesky and we got a buddy, Troutmouth, out in Northern Virginia. Andy and I sat by a fire at his mountain house, and he made me play one of my songs on acoustic guitar, and I was like, oh, fuck, how do I do that? So that kind of like sparked, seeing Andy and Chesky and Troutmouth out in Virginia, you know, pushing some guitars, you know, and definitely, like, lyrically, the way all three of those motherfuckers be spitting lyrics, it's been really inspirational to come back from tour and, like, be writing some words down and thinking about, you know, really inspiring to, you know, that's kind of, you asked before if, you know, mostly, you know, if weed makes me horny, but, you know,
This is a great answer to that.
the road has totally been, like, extreme, like, fodder and a lot of the emotions that were hard for me and that I was able to let go of, and, you know, being on the road and tour and around these amazing performers and musicians and whatnot had just, you know, completely inspired me and sent me some good vibes and really good energy. They be healing me without knowing. Thank y'all, everybody I talked to for that, you know. Thank all y'all for healing me. I appreciate it.
Hell yeah, cool. Emotron represent. Well, speaking of letting things go,
Pivoting
I guess let's just go ahead and shovel our faces right into some poop talk.
I have a question.
Yeah, let's go.
I was really fascinated by your poop stories because you listed a bunch of things on Facebook that you had pooped in, but one of those things was something you hadn't pooped in, and you made everybody guess. And I really thought it was maybe a hot dog bun that you had not pooped in. But it was actually... Wait, no. You hadn't pooped in the hot dog bun. I thought you hadn't pooped in a dog's mouth, but you really pooped in a dog's mouth and not the hot dog bun. But anyway, it was a funny story, and I was wondering if you'd tell another story about one of those other things that you pooped in.
Well, I guess to give the story about pooping in the dog's mouth.
Okay.
It actually wasn't, like, directly into the dog's mouth. It was the first time that I ever shat on stage, aka Tom Foote's basement in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Probably a good, like, 13, 14 years ago. There was like 20 people down there in his basement. At the end of my set, I was, you know, trying to be Gigi, completely naked, urinating all over myself, and there was a couple of people down there that started chanting, "Take a shit, take a shit." So I was like, "Oh gosh, how am I gonna do this?"
Shitting
so,
on command isn't something you can just no laxatives
in front of like 20 people in a punk basement in Chattanooga. Yeah, very, very hard, but I was able to manage to get like 2 little rabbit turds out of me, and as soon as they hit the ground, Tom Foote's dog Jaeger comes up and just eats it right off the ground, and everybody was like, "Holy shit!" Like, completely unplanned. Didn't even know the damn dog was down there. A couple days later, Tom called me, left me a message saying, "Kyle, my dog Jaeger just farted, and I can't help but believe that it's your shit that I'm smelling coming out of my dog's ass."
Wow.
So,
talk about the cycle of life.
Yeah. So I guess another one would be the Pringles can is a pretty good story. 4th of July Sky House Show party in Atlanta. Small group of friends. 4th of July, you know, everybody out of town bands like hanging out in Atlanta, shooting off fireworks, getting crunk and whatnot. I shit in a Pringles can and put chips on top of it. And we left the can on the patio outside of the party and went in, like a few of us eating chips, like, you know, symbolizing, giving people visuals that, hey, there may be Pringles around at this party.
Yum.
So the next day, you know, 4th of July, 5th of July, fucking hot as fuck in Georgia. One of my friends that was in on the Pringles can joke hollered at me and was like, "Hey, these 2 boys and these bands are like daring each other to eat your Pringles," and like gagging, almost throwing up. And he said that they eventually like dumped the Pringles can over the banister, and like, you know, a couple Pringles came out, and like this giant like melted turd glob just falls 2 stories and like hits the pavement. You know, they figure out what they're actually smelling.
Yikes!
It ain't Pringles, sex, drugs, and UFOs.
I think we should change the
Stars
name
and
of
garters.
The podcast should be called Sex, Drugs, and Poop at this point. We've talked about poop so much. On the last episode, we were talking about shitting porn and cake farts and all sorts of stuff. 2 girls, 1 cup. And I mean, we've talked about, there's one where I talk about, like, I'll just repeat the story because it's like 20 seconds long, but when I was a kid, we'd have sleepovers at the Jewish temple, and there was this really crazy kid, and he shit on a paper plate and put it next to this other kid's nose while he was sleeping. A poor Russian kid who just came over after the fall of the Soviet Union, and now he has to deal with fucking shit by his nose. You know, he was dealing with shit by his nose in Russia, so to speak. So
that's horrible.
He's very literal now.
I bet that kid that did it got some like really shitty karma.
Yeah, I think he works for, what's that company that fucked over everybody and, like, caused, like, the economic collapse? What was that, like...
Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, like, one of those. I think he works for one of those, so...
So he got shit on.
And the kid who got the shit to his nose, he got to go to prom with the girl that I asked out at the end of 8th grade that said no to me, so... So
the Soviet immigrant got to go to prom.
He got the hot girl.
Oh, well,
I got nothing.
Everything
the other
balances
dude
out.
works for Goldman and Sachs. That's how that story all plays out. I guess I got shit on, really.
Yeah, no, karma works in very sometimes clearly trajectory.
I smoked a fat blunt during prom. What was your prom like, Emotron? Did you go to prom?
Oh, I went to 3 of them, and I hated all 3 of them.
Yeah? Did anything crazy happen? Did you shit on anything during prom?
The second one that I went to with someone that I was dating, I think I was like 21 and she was in high school, 18.
All right, we'll make sure that she's 18 for the story.
And her and her mom like painted my face like Ace Frehley from Kiss.
Oh, he's the best member.
They would not let me into her prom, and they made me wash my fucking makeup off. Some of the teachers were like, "Oh, come on, like, he's all good. Like, this is Ace Frehley. Let him in. Let him into
He's
our
the
damn
star
prom."
child. Is he the star child, or am I getting...
Spaceman.
He's the space... Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, damn. So you just had to go, basically, as, like, a lame, like, mid-'80s member of Kiss with no face paint.
Exactly. I didn't even look like that.
Not even. Not even that. Not even Gene Simmons, 1984.
I was 21. That was like way before I went through puberty.
What
Like
was the
10 years, maybe.
first and third experience like? If that's
my prom was decent. Like I dyed my hair like blue or green, and asked someone that I met at a Beastie Boys concert from the mountains to go with me. And yeah, it was all right. I did some disco dancing.
Did you just...
Like I really got down.
Did you do some disco dancing in the bedroom?
No. That was a couple years later.
Did you drive drunk? Because, you know, those prom commercials.
No.
That's
that
good.
was a couple years later, too.
Yeah.
Did you experience...
I was pretty straight edge until I was like 21, I reckon.
Did you experience any coitus, illicit substances, or extraterrestrials?
No, totally not.
Damn.
No. I was like completely pure when I went to my first...
narrated anti-drunk driving commercial for my area for high school proms. I had the voice that they chose. They were like, Matt has the voice for not drinking and driving. I'm the voice of reason.
Do an example of it. What does it sound like?
Are you going to prom tonight? Are you and your friends going to drive a car? Well, make sure not to drive that car drunk and run over a 4-year-old and mangle them, you fucks. Something like that.
Print it.
You did a good job at it right now as an adult. Congratulations.
I would like to think so. What are we at time here? About 35 minutes. Well, Emotron, do you want a surprise?
Yeah. What would that be?
There's some people that have been with us this whole time. They're here in this room, and do you want to guess who it could be?
Who could be in Austin? Is it that fella that draws cats and has a Casio keyboard?
It is Lil White Bitch.
Hey.
Holy shit! Holy shit! Those motherfuckers.
We're sorry we didn't FaceTime you, Emotron.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all good. This is like even better. Like this is like concrete evidence. Second podcast I'm on.
Ear time.
Y'all are on. Y'all will be credited on this podcast, hopefully.
Yeah.
We'll be prejudiced.
Unless Lil take my voice out.
Oh, we don't edit. The only time we edited is when I said a really politically incorrect word and I didn't want to be like really hunted down on the internet. I forgot that people don't say the word anymore about certain people. Not like an ethnic or a homophobic thing. It was just a not nice word.
Yeah.
I'd probably edit that part out too.
I mean, we all forgot, and now everyone remembers.
Yeah, everyone's gonna go back and look for it. Like, what did he call that kid from camp in 8th grade at Camp Fitch? He was a...
Play the
what?
tapes back.
Yep. You were the one that did the turd play. I know now.
Actually, I have a funny... I went to Christian camp in 8th grade, or maybe it was 7th grade, and I learned a lot at Christian camp. I learned how to fast forward a Discman. You hold down the fast forward button, like a CD Discman. I learned that. I learned the Cannibal Corpse fucking sucks, allegedly. I was later proven wrong when I actually heard them. This kid was a fucking idiot. I was like, I wonder what this band Cannibal Corpse sounds like. He's like, oh, that stuff sucks. Listen to NoFX. I'm like, motherfucker, you were wrong. You were dead wrong. Cannibal Corpse is the shit. Fucked with a knife, okay? Just doesn't get better than that.
He probably likes Five Finger Death Punch, too.
What is your current relationship with NoFX?
I mean, you know what's really weird is I loved NoFX for the longest time, and then all of a sudden they just really annoyed me, and I just kind of can't get past like Fat Mike being the 50-year-old dude with like green hair, just being annoying and stupid.
At what point can you put a year or an album on?
The last one I really liked was The Decline, which was an EP. That was probably like 2002.
We feel the same way.
Yeah.
I've got So Long and Thanks for All the Shoes on CD in my car CD player that I've been playing. That's
a good one. White Trash, Two Heaves and a Bean, Heavy Petting Zoo.
Yeah.
What's the one where they're still kind of a hardcore band? It's like there's some animals on the cover, and not Animal Liberation, but something like that.
Everybody listening is answering for us.
The first time I heard NoFX for my first exposure was the Misfits tribute album where they did Last Caress, and I was just like,
I've heard that.
I was just kind of speechless, and I just hit next song and moved on. I
would say that I like Cannibal Corpse maybe a little better than NoFX, but also at Camp Fitch, I was really into wrestling, ECW, and there was this kid I met, and he's the one that I called a word that's frowned upon. But anyways, he got me into the Insane Clown Posse for a summer, and like we didn't know what juggalos were or whatever, but he definitely turned me on to the Riddle Box by ICP. And you know what? ICP has a few good songs. They're kind of funny.
Oh yeah, the Great Malenko's so much fun.
They were in your list too.
Yeah, people voted ICP into the worst band tournament, and I was very against that. And I was like, y'all don't know what you're talking about.
I felt the same way about Fish. I was like, Fish, I know a lot of Wayne fans don't like Fish, but, big ups to Fish for, giving Wayne some more exposure, even if they're labeled as hippies. I'll be one of those friends.
Yeah,
I'll be the shaman that helps both sides.
See, I'm like very anti-Fish.
They still sell those tickets in Madison Square Garden, so they're doing something right.
How do you camp out? How do you what do you call it? What do they do before the show? Not camping out, but You know, where they're all around.
Yeah.
Taking drugs.
They call it taking drugs. Well, how do they do that outside of Madison Square Garden in the middle of New York City? How do they do that?
Well, that's what I felt was powerful about seeing the Ween shows in the past couple years that I've gone out to see them on the West Coast, and most recently in Nashville and Atlanta. Like the meetups beforehand, I mean, maybe they're not as epic as what you're talking about, but you know, just people in the Facebook group getting together, and there not being, you know, internet screen or
that
between
is nice.
between us and them, you know, and you know, there's a lot of hate on those groups and whatnot, but I've felt when we're all together in person, it's just been extreme, like, love and for this band, and I think that's great. I hope that passes on.
Well,
to
if you could take
all
Fish out
our
of the
projects.
tournament, who would you put in the tournament to replace Fish in the battle of the worst bands?
Oh man, it's hard for me to like say, because I think through psychedelic use, like, I've learned to appreciate all music and all performances, unless it's like completely fake, manufactured music by record labels, which in fact, you know, I'd probably say, you know, like Britney Spears, or like, you know, something like that, you know, to that effect.
I wouldn't vote Britney Spears in, because like she has some great abs and she worked
Yeah.
hard dancing on stage every night for
Yeah,
those abs.
totally.
Totally.
What's that?
Toxic.
Yeah.
Toxic? Is that a band?
No, it's a song by Britney Spears.
Oh, I'm so dumb.
She's
I know
a
that
video
song.
where she's a stewardess.
I actually have jacked off to that video, so I should probably know it. I taped it with a fucking VCR tape and rewound it
Or in
over and over
Spring
again.
Breakers when they're James Franco sings her song.
Oh, yeah, that's
man.
actually, I like that song.
Do you find Mumford & Sons more cringy than Britney Spears, or vice versa?
I don't find, I would, you know, I'd find myself, you know, not changing the channel more likely if Mumford and Sons came on the radio versus
like,
Britney Spears.
with stuff that I don't like, I feel like I really don't have the energy anymore to really like hate a band or think about a band I don't like for more than a couple seconds.
Yeah.
I just like doing it in a fun way. Like, I don't really
I
give
think
it
it's
some
great.
emotional energy or anything. And like I fucking hate them so much. Uncle Cracker takes up so much of my day, so much of the space in my mind. Fuck you, Uncle Cracker.
I hate Foo Fighters.
You hate Foo
But
Fighters?
It's like not really based on their music. It's
Yeah. Is it Dave Grohl?
Yes, I don't know.
There's definitely a Dave Grohl thing.
I
Like-
love him in Nirvana. Like,
Oh, yeah, Nirvana's amazing.
I hear he throws really bomb-ass barbecues in L.A.
He actually lived in Youngstown, Ohio, where I'm from, for a few years. Technically Warren, which is like the connecting city, but they have a Dave Grohl alley there now, and like Dave Grohl came and like did a performance, and it's fucking crazy. RZA lived there for a little bit. It's like this little place that like these people.
Is that
these
where Dave
iconic
Chappelle
people-
lives?
Dave Chappelle lives in Yellow Springs, Ohio, which is southern Ohio. But everyone who, I know a bunch of people that have just like ran into Dave Chappelle at pizza shops or like buying beer or whatever. And he'll be the one that's like, hey, what's up? How's your night? You know, like Dave Chappelle's just like a cool dude that says what's up. You know, he's not just like, probably just like buried on his phone or like mean mugging people. Or everyone's on headphones these days. That's the
Oh
new
my god,
thing.
yeah.
Everyone's
like,
on,
to a
including
dangerous
me.
level.
Including me.
It's nuts. Now with those AirPods, it's almost like, you know,
There's no
it's the norm.
conversations to be had. I'm always like, you know, I'm walking the dog.
People think you're a terrorist if you try to talk to them in public.
Can't talk to people in
Or
public.
if you wave to them, sometimes they're like, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah,
Why don't you
yeah.
wave
What do they want from me?
Yeah, like
I
I was just saying, hey.
I lived in the South.
Lost it.
We just lost Emotron.
We'll bring them back and then we'll wrap it up. But when I moved, when I first went to the South and moved to North Carolina, and random people would say what's up to me, I was like, "What's up? Like, what are you talking I was like, what the fuck do you
4
want?
7 0 4
Was that
8
the right
He's
number?
calling
8.
back.
Oh, there he is.
I think a representative from Apple just intercepted our phone call
They're
to.
like, don't talk shit on our devices, our Bluetooth headphones.
We're talking about Dave Chappelle now.
Oh no.
Yeah, they kicked us the fuck off.
Yeah, they did. Well, shit, we'll probably wrap it up here in a minute, unless is there
That's
anything?
fine.
We gotta
Is
make
there-
moves.
First of all, Tron, is there anything you want to say, and then I'll ask if anybody else wants to say anything. I feel like this is a wedding, and it's like speak now or forever hold your piss, which I've been doing during this whole podcast, by the way.
I think I'm good. Some of the Greenville homies showed up. Kenny, Richard Benjamin, Jeff Blender showed up, and
my
the
people.
Chesky show, and Chapel Hill, and yeah, it was a good little reunion. It was nice to have
That's
them there.
awesome.
And,
Yeah.
really good vibes and energy sent in your good name, and yeah,
Hell yeah.
talk to those motherfuckers. They'd like to hear from you.
Yeah, I think we should both play Spaz Fest this like coming March. We should definitely.
Yeah,
There should be like me, you, Richard, Kenny,
I'm
Jeff,
there-
everybody
I'm there
in the
every-
same room.
I'm there every year, buddy. Where are you?
I know. I've really been slacking on. Well, it overlapped with South by Southwest twice. I know that.
Yeah.
But you know what? Even if it overlaps with South by Southwest this year, fuck it. I'm going to Greenville. Richard, if you're listening, I know Kenny listens sometimes. I don't know if Jeff listens, but I would definitely like to come.
He
rock
should
it.
be. He'd be smiling really big. He's got a good smile and laugh.
He does, man. I owe Jeff so much. Like, I moved to Greenville, and I didn't know anybody. And my second night in that city, I was opening up for Future Islands. Just like, it was
Oh,
crazy.
shit.
At like Turducken House, which I know you've played.
Yeah. I was going through old pictures on my phone from Spaz Fest 2 years ago, and I found a picture of the Turducken House right over there by the Sheets. They eventually built the Sheets right there.
I know. I walked to that
One
Sheets
time.
many times, and there was a
Yeah.
crazy lady who used to hang out at the Sheets, and I remember she'd be harassing Richard like, "Hey Godfather, hey Godfather." I don't know what that was all about, but he'll remember if he's listening. She would call him the Godfather. I don't think he liked that.
No, probably not.
Yeah, so we got to get you. I know you're not doing a lot of touring, but we got to get you down here. Like we'll figure out a way, but we're gonna have to get
Come
you
for
down
Christmas again.
to Austin.
We'll make cookies.
Yeah, y'all come to me. Y'all come to me this time.
I know. We will.
Plug your Instagram, Twitters, Facebook, Friendster.
Yeah, plug your shit.
Yeah, it's all in there. You just gotta put it in the wall.
Just say Emotron 3 times in front of the mirror.
Exactly.
We have Lil White Bitch in the studio. Do y'all want to like plug any of your shit?
Do you want to say fuck off to
Go to-
Houston?
Well, wait, what are you?
They're too nice.
No,
to
Houston's
tell
cool.
Houston will retaliate.
what's
I mean,
your-
Zero will be
How
here soon.
about we plug each other? How about I plug Little White Bitch and they can plug Tron? How that sound all right, y'all?
Yeah.
I think that should be done.
Well, what's
I'll
your?
go
What
I'll
are
go
you
first.
doing in the
I'll
future?
go first.
Uh,
What am I doing in the future?
yeah, like what's your plans?
My plan for the future is to talk about Lil White Bitch. They're from Birmingham, Alabama. They're synth rock. They're some wild ass drums and light show with maybe some masks with screens on them that maybe you should be on mushrooms to watch or not on mushrooms to watch, depending on what kind of person you are. They hard workers. They out there. They're doing it, representing the good in the South.
There you go.
All right, y'all wanna talk about Tron? Like,
Go
y'all
ahead.
wanna tell them about me now?
Go ahead and plug the Tron.
But okay. Well, you go first.
Can I just talk about the first time I saw you perform?
Yeah, go for it.
So, I had seen your stuff on the internet when I was like 15, but I never thought that I would meet you in person. And when we first saw you perform it was some dive bar.
We were like the only people.
Yeah, we were like the only people, but I was like blown away. I had no idea that you were gonna strip down and set your underwear on fire. My face turned so red.
Oh, Lord.
But I was really inspired, and yeah, it's great. I really like your music too, and I hope other people, and I know other people like your music and go and see you perform, and I hope you get to continue to do that and tour and stuff, and I hope you come back to Birmingham soon.
Oh yeah,
That's what
Birmingham's a lot
hoping.
closer than Austin.
I was hoping
Not
you
fair.
were saying you were going to come to Birmingham soon.
Yeah, that's what we were.
Well, you asked about my future. I'm pretty much in Durham for most of the year, Durham, North Carolina. I've got a dear friend who's trying to get their captain's boat license and is required 800 hours on the ocean. So they offered me a spot at their house to take care of their pit bull and their cat. And actually on Saturday, in like I guess 2 or 3 days, I'm gonna be starting a business called the Scrap Exchange, essentially like a thrift store for artists and more. Coming here this weekend, I worked for the company 4 or 5 years ago for a couple of years while I was living in town back then. So yeah, it's interesting. My life from touring is transitioning into like a work and stay still life.
I feel that.
Your hair's
Yeah,
gonna
it's been
go
great
gray.
though. Yeah, it's been great. I've been, like I said earlier, writing some music and actually focus on that and focus on a lot of recording projects with other people and other people's recording or music, recording other people's music and doing, my time is spent, alone with headphones on, tweaking knobs, and that world is really fun for me to be in.
Well, hell yeah. Lee, do you have anything to say?
Nope, I just enjoyed talking to you and
Us
hearing
too.
your stories.
Poncho's chilling with us two little Chihuahua Schnauzer pupper. I gotta go to band practice for Powerhawk.
All right.
Check out Powerhawk on Bandcamp. Our album is about to drop next month. We're gonna have a show this weekend, and we'll definitely have a beer for Emotron.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna
Good.
plug any of my shit because I'm on some like anti shit right now. And
Yeah, Five Finger Death Punch. We plugged it.
Yeah, I mean, why even bother talking about my art when I've talked about Five Finger Death Punch? It's pretty much where my life is at right now.
Ride's over, kids.
They won and lost at the same time.
Yeah, man.
All right, little white bitch,
reality.
y'all be safe out on the road, and thank Austin, Texas, for taking care of y'all when Houston didn't. And
Man, thank you.
Yeah,
You've been so gracious.
love all y'all very much. It was nice talking to you.
Absolutely. Batter up and happy trails, Emotron.
All right, Emotron, have a good night. Sex, drugs, and UFOs.
Night.
Bye, night.
Bye, y'all.
All right, so we're going to end this with a track from
I think we should...
Powerhawk!
Booty call! Booty call!
Almost tired of the winds. My heart's in October and I'm totally That's a ball.